I got access to Marvel Rivals Season 1.5, so let me show you Human Torch's abilities, the Thing's abilities, and all of the buffs and nerfs in the game to show you what they're all about. Let's first start with Human Torch. His primary attack is a 6-round primary attack that fires fairly fast. You'll notice it has quite an interesting burst pattern, but the further we go away, you'll notice that it's still going to hit fairly effectively. And what's really interesting about this is you'll see 6 flame icons on the screen. This is actually your ammo, and it recharges over time pretty quickly. So even though you have 6 rounds, if you keep firing, eventually what will happen is you'll reach no ammo and it will just charge, and you can keep firing at a slower fire rate. So technically you can have infinite ammo or wait for it to charge back up again and then start firing more often. Now, Human Torch's secondary attack fires these bursts on the ground, and as you'll see, they'll stay there for a while, and this will actually pair with another ability that we'll get into in a second. But let's first look at the effect when you throw it on the ground, on a player. It'll do base damage, and then it'll do tick damage over time. Now, if you walk into this area, you'll also take tick damage over time, as you see this bot here. It'll take damage whilst it's in the flame. Now, as soon as they leave that flame, there'll no longer be any more damage. Now, you get 3 of these together on cooldown, but as you can see, you can fire a bit more than that. Like, we've got 5 here now. You can get about 5 down before it goes on cooldown. Now, the interesting thing about that is how it combines to the Flame Ball ability. The Flame Ball pairs 2 or more of these together to create, you guessed it, a Flame Ball. Now, what's very interesting is anything caught in that radius will, of course, take damage over time. Now, you may start to see a pattern here. A lot of Human Torch's abilities are about dealing damage over time and stacking that up together. Now, you could do something very crazy. Let's try and make a 4, shall we? So we've got 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and then we create a flame wall. That's a diamond. You get the point, though. You can actually stack more than 1 together and create the whole area connected together. That's going to create a really nice way to stop pushes, do area of effect damage, and so much more as well. Now, Johnny doesn't have a passive, but when you hold down shift, you'll get sort of like an enhanced state to get you up into the air faster, which is going to be really important because it pairs well with the next ability, which is this. You'll basically fly down to the ground nearby and hit and knock back players. Now, what's really, really cool is it pairs with this flame field ability. So if I go into this, we'll actually detonate that area. So let's get a Groot to really showcase the potential here. Let's get a Groot out. So what will happen is if I do a normal thing, it does a very small amount of damage, right? However, if I then combine it with some flame fields, look at what happens now. Get a Groot again. We put 1, 2 down maybe. Now look at the health we do. Ready? It does more as those flame fields are detonated. So you can really combine the abilities in interesting ways. Flame walls can be combined to make flame walls like that. And then we can go like this, and everything in this area explodes together. A lot of combo potential. Now, Johnny's ultimate, when activated, will allow you to do this as your right click instead. You will be able to create super tornadoes. Now, you'll notice they don't really move. However, they can be used together in a very interesting way. So if you fire it on an enemy, for example, it does a lot more damage than the base attack. Now check this out. If I get my ultimate, and now if I press X, it will enhance her ultimate into a firestorm, dealing more damage, which is really incredible. Now, what's really great is if I just put one of my hurricanes here, it will enhance it as she moves into it. There are many ways to combine it together. You don't have to. Like, if she walks into this now, it would also turn into flames. So that's a pretty good look at his abilities. You can see them on the screen as well. He also has the same passive with Fantastic Four's team up with Invisible Woman. But overall, he's got a lot of decent damage that stacks over time with sort of damage over time. Really combo everything together really well. Now check how much distance you can get on the flame wall. I put it like here. That still works. Takes some time to connect, but it still works. Next, we have the Thing. Now, he's a very interesting Vanguard that has some dive potential, some peel potential, and so much more. Firstly, he has 2 attacks that basically have no cooldown. This is his first attack, and I'll show you the damage it does now. Let's just get a Lunar Snow. This is a 2 burst. So every time you click it, it does 2 bursts, as you can see here. And if you melee, it's the same. Okay? But his secondary attack does a charge up and fires out a sort of shockwave. And that does a lot more damage. And I do believe you have to charge it fully up before you can use it. So those are like the 2 primary attacks. He's got a lot of upfront potential. Now his shift will charge him forwards, and then whoever's hit in that area will not be able to use movement abilities to escape. So if we read this ability, continuously charge forward, launching up enemies and leaving behind a zone at the final position that prevents the use of mobility abilities. So that is a really powerful ability to sort of dive somebody, like, I don't know, an Invisible Woman who wants to double jump away, won't be able to do it. Now another ability is I can use E to jump onto my teammate, and then I and the teammate will get damage reduction for a short time. These rocks signify the damage reduction. Now this Galactobot usually does, I believe, 50 damage, is it? Oh, 25. So we're taking 25 right now. If I go here, we're now taking a little bit less, as you can see. Let's try and get a nice round number so we can actually figure this out. So we'll go to 700 health here. Let's see how much damage it takes instead. Here we go. So 17 instead of 25. That's quite nice. Now, the Thing also has a passive. He's immune to launch up, knockback, and other displacement effects. So he's a counter to Wolverine. He's a counter to Wolverine. He's a counter to any displacement effects. Anything that could knock you up, like Bucky's grapple or Hawkeye's abilities or any abilities that could knock you up. Even Moon Knight's Unk won't affect the Thing. He's immovable, basically. He's pretty simple on the surface, but I'm sure there's going to be some cool combos that come out. He's got the fastball special combat with Wolverine as well, and also the same team up with Invisible Woman. And let's take a look at his ultimate now. Use immense power to launch enemies in front of you in the air. It's pretty straightforward. As you can see, we'll throw a massive set of rocks there. It seems to be a 15-meter range. So if we do it from here, will we be able to hit them? Yeah, so about a 15-meter range. It will throw people up in the air. And like I say, basic kit, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good ways to combo it. When you do your secondary attack, by the way, you do get a bit of bonus health. And as you activate your shift, you also get bonus health as well. There's a lot of ways for him to self-sustain himself, even if he doesn't have, like, the most appealing sort of escape tools necessarily. And that's what it looks like. It does a fair amount of damage and sort of stuns them for a while as well. So this is a really good engage tool for sure. It may not kill people, but it'll set you up for the kills. Alright, we'll definitely get into playing these characters and learning them more, so expect a look at sort of more advanced guides once we've actually learnt the characters better. For now, let's get into the meta changes for Season 1.5. Starting with Captain America. You will now be able to shield yourself whilst mid-leap. As you can see here, you can now shield yourself. Vibranium Energy Sword's projectile speed has gone from 60 to 80 meters a second. So it will now increase in speed. And when it bounces between players, it will go from 100 meters a second to 150 meters a second. So that travel time between targets has increased by 50%. So it's going faster now. Now, one thing about Captain America's kit is that as you build up attacks, you will start to basically throw the shield, right? Like this, right? If you don't like to do that, there's a new feature now. If you just melee, you won't throw the shield. It will only do melee. So this is a great counter to, say, Doctor Strange when you want to just melee shields. And it means that you can melee in the air without activating your diving strikes. This is a really nice change for sure. Captain America's ultimate has been reduced in energy cost as well from 3,100 to 2,800. Doctor Strange has had a change, very small. His health has gone from 650 to 600, as you can see on screen. Now, in the past, Groot could activate a wall up to 15 meters. Now, he can go 18 meters. So an extra 3-meter difference on this specific wall, which is going to allow you to sort of set up slightly longer range engagements to be able to activate this, right? Magneto has had some adjustments. Firstly, his iron volley attack has actually increased in damage. It now does 40 instead of 35. However, his shield has been nerfed. The maximum duration is only 1.5 seconds now instead of 2 seconds. So it will only stay up for a lot shorter time. So one change with Thor has happened. So in the past, when you activated Awakening Rune, after it ended, all of your cooldowns would be reset. However, now you can go straight into your normal abilities. So that's a really good way, and it's going to allow you to flow back into the combo again very easily. Venom's got a couple changes, the first of which being the knockback effect from Frenzied Arrival. They won't go up in the air anymore. Instead, they'll bounce inwards towards Venom, which is going to give more of a displacement effect and allow you to actually follow up with more sort of attacks if you need to, which is pretty nice. I really like that. It's going to make sure that they don't get away from your shift ability so easy as well. The ultimate has reduced in energy cost as well. It's now 2,500, so you're going to get it more often. Black Widow has now had another buff. She can one-shot. Nah, just kidding. No, she now has 15 ammo per mag instead of 8. So that's quite a nice change. If you play Black Widow, you're going to feel this one. I certainly will. The ultimate has also changed somewhat. Firstly, the stun effect is increased. It's an 80% slow, instead of 55%. And on top of that, those in the slowing effect will take more damage now. They'll take a 15% extra damage whilst affected by this. So it's a nice little change. Not massive. The main primary attack is still worse than a Hawkeye. Speaking of Hawkeye, he's gotten a lot of nice changes. Firstly, an health increase from 250 to 275. Nextly, they're really trying to make Blast Arrow actually a bit more useful. So now, the spell field effect, so not the direct hit, but the sort of explosion effect will do 32 damage now. And the actual Blast Arrow itself will do 15 instead of 20. So a direct hit will do less damage, but the spell field will do more. I've actually never really even used this. Has anyone used this ability? I very rarely use it. I don't think I've ever used it. Crescent Slash, the ability here, has had a cooldown improvement. It's now 12 seconds instead of 15. And the ultimate has been buffed. You'll now do a 1.35 damage multiplier on the ghosts. So you'll do more damage. And the bow draw speed has increased. So maybe it's better to show on this. Basically, it's going to do more damage. It's going to charge up faster than normal, which is that's actually a pretty good Hawkeye buff. Has had a slight buff. The damage fall off of the main attack, Night Sword Thorn, will now be 80% instead of 70% at 30 meters. So from here, damage fall off will start. Alright, let's try it on one target. Let me try that again. So I think it was a headshot and 2 body shots before. You can get 2 headshots at this distance. I'm thinking that's reverting the change that she had before, right? I think she can now 2-shot headshot again. I'm going to put the Iron Fist changes on screen. Iron Fist means you can sort of take from this what you want. But basically, he's dealing less damage and healing more now. So his main attack is going to do less damage. Every single attack form in there is going to do less damage. However, his secondary has sort of had a buff. And it will do damage now based on full health. So I'm thinking this might do a little bit of more damage on like a tank. It does 1.7% of the opponent's maximum health. So, I don't know, let's say get a Groot and we activate this. It's now a percentage-based deal. So, I mean, you can't complain with that. Like, it's actually kind of like a new tank buster ability. Ooh, that's actually a good change. And he'll get more healing now. He'll get 150 maximum health. Oh, sorry, I let go of it. We'll get 150 maximum health now from this instead of 50. So we can go to 450 health. And if he blocks, you can get an extra 200 health now instead of 150. So let's see how much max health we can actually block up here. And then we go into this mode. Does it stack? No, it maxes out. Okay. But he also has 300 base health instead of 250 now, as we can see here. So, yeah, quite a lot of buffs for him. Just his main basic attack has got nerfed, but everything else has been buffed. Iron Man got a buff. His base Unibeam will now do 140 damage per second instead of 120. And his upgraded version will do 190 instead of 180. Now, the Hulk team-up has been changed. Well, adjusted, I should say. It will now do 200 damage instead of 220. So it's definitely not as powerful, but I mean, it's still pretty good. Magik's had a small nerf. The little Demon's Rage creature that she can throw out after her shift does less damage per second now. It is 72 instead of 80. But as a buff, her ult now has 3,400 energy cost instead of 3,700. Okay, some pretty cool things have happened to Mr. Fantastic. Firstly, let's talk about his E ability. It will knock them back now a little bit, which is nice. And it sort of has a larger radius. It has a 5-meter radius instead of a 2.5-meter radius. Now, I don't know if that means you can attack multiple targets or what. I don't... Yes, you just saw it there, I think. Perhaps. Yes, as you see there, it does. It definitely hits multiple targets. Now, the most interesting thing is Mr. Fantastic's ultimate. It will now do 70 damage per hit, and I believe that stacks in the same way it did before. So it's going to do a lot more damage if you hit all 6 stacks. However, you will need to hit the sort of center. Like if I hit in the exact center, and also look at the radius, I think it's a lot bigger. This does 70 damage, but if I hit right at the very end, it will do 50. And with each hit, we'll do more and more damage over time. So we could almost kill a Hulk. So, in the past, you could kill a support, but it would take, like, all 6 hits. 3. Okay, 3, and she's got 1 HP left. Pretty good. So, Moon Knight's ultimate has been changed. They've changed the way the damage is dealt out. It should be less likely to do double damage. I mean, the way that they've worded it is a bit confusing, but it now looks like this. So, those talons will come out slower. However, each talon will hit for more damage. So, basically, there's less chance of, like, you getting double hit by 2 talons. But it's still going to do the same damage per ult. Scarlet Witch got a buff to her ultimate. When she activates it now, she'll get 100 bonus health. And as the ultimate ends, it will slowly tick down at 50 health per second. Spider-Man got a small buff to his web clusters. They'll now recharge a little bit faster at 2.5 seconds per cluster instead of 3. It would be easier to tell if I didn't have a cooldown. But this recharges faster now. Star-Lord mains will be happy. His jetpack fuel has gone from 1,200 to 1,800 energy. So you're going to get more use out of this, which is nice. You're going to be able to use it for longer. I'm just going to put the storm changes on screen and explain it in the best way I can. Firstly, damage fall-off has happened. 30 meters, she'll now do 60% damage instead of 70. But more importantly, her weather control effects to boost her damage have been nerfed for her. She'll do less damage to targets, whether she's got Thunder Mode or Enhanced Thunder Mode on, like right now. She'll do less bonus damage. However, her teammates in the radius will do more bonus damage. The stats are on screen. Adam Warlock's base attack will now do 60 damage instead of 55, which is quite crazy when you realize this is a hit scan ability like Hela's, and it has critical damage. So, yeah, underrated change coming here. And also, the damage fall-off has changed. At 40 meters, it will be 60% damage instead of 50. So, even at long range, like, we're doing pretty well. As you can see. Not a 3-hit, though. It's still a 4-hit. Cloak and Dagger's ultimate has been changed quite a lot. So, before, it would stack, right? Each dash, if you dashed in the same place like this, it would stack. And if you stood in this area, you'll get massive amounts of healing. Now, you only get the maximum of 1 dash worth of healing. The healing per dash has gone up to 250, though, per second. But yes, you can't stand in this and just stack up a bunch of healing anymore. And also, there's a bit of a longer delay between each dash, as you could have probably seen there. Now, when you're in the Cloak mode, you activate the E ability, which is Terror. Okay. They'll take more damage, right? That's gone up to 28% damage vulnerability now. So they'll take 28% extra damage instead of 20%. For Invisible Woman, her ult charge has increased in cost. It's 4,300 instead of 4,000. Loki's ultimate as well has gone to 4,000 instead of 3,400. However, his mystical missile, his basic attack, now has 12 shots instead of 10. So a bit more damage output per reload. Lunar Snow's ultimate also increased in cost, 4,500 energy instead of 4,000. Atlas Bond, I don't think anyone really used this, but it's got a buff. I'll put the stats on screen now. That will heal and deal more slow effect, basically. Also, I'll put on these stats for Dimensional Shortcut, which got a changed. Gamma Charge, which we talked about earlier, got a change. And this is a really nice change for Moon Knight that I would like to actually show. Let me go take some damage first. So before, this was quite a useless team-up ability for Moon Knight. But when he stands inside the cloaked area, look at what happens. He now can get healing over time. Pretty good. And then the Symbiote Bond has had a buff. I'll show you what that is on screen now as well. So those are all the buffs and nerfs for this season.